Hi everyone, I'm Scott Hardman. I'm a professional researcher in the Plug-in Hybrid and Electric Vehicle Research Center. I've worked in the center for about 4 years now, and my research is mostly focused on the consumer adoption of electric vehicles. So I spend a lot of time surveying and interviewing people who buy electric vehicles to find out, why they bought them, how they use them, and whether or not incentives, how that impacts their decision to buy the vehicle. And then recently, as I'll talk about, we've been surveying these same people to understand, after they buy an electric vehicle, what happens next? Do they still keep owning an electric vehicle, or do they do something else? And this is important since Governor Gavin Newsom recently announced we have this target to sell 100% electric vehicles or zero emission vehicles by 2035 in California. So in order to do that, the people who are buying the technology now need to keep purchasing it when they make subsequent vehicle purchases, and we need new buyers to come to the market. Okay, so I'll quickly define what we mean by discontinuance in the context of household vehicle purchasing. So in the United States and California, most households own 2 vehicles. So vehicle purchasing is cyclical. So if a household buys a Nissan Leaf, for example, the next vehicle they buy might be an SUV, for example, and these vehicles will fulfill different roles within the household fleet. So we can't just look at this type of purchasing. We need to take a more broader look and consider the entire household vehicle fleet. So again, using this example, if a household buys a Nissan Leaf, they then buy an SUV, it would be the vehicle after that, in this example, a Tesla Model 3, that would actually replace the Nissan Leaf in the household. So in order to discover what rate of discontinuance is occurring, we need to consider this whole sort of cycle. And if this SUV and this vehicle, if neither of those were electric, we would count that household as having discontinued electric vehicle ownership. So we investigated this by sending a survey out to households we had previously surveyed as part of other research into sort of initial adoption. We sent a survey out to those households. We asked them, do they still own their electric vehicle? Do they have a new electric vehicle? And we asked them to give us all of the vehicles that they have in that household. And so using the information we have from their first survey and the second survey, we can see who still owns and who still doesn't own an electric vehicle. So we found that in California, 17% of battery electric vehicle owners and 21% of plug-in hybrid electric vehicle owners have discontinued owning an electric vehicle. And the positive side is that about 80% of the population, they purchase an electric vehicle and they still own an electric vehicle in the household. However, these 17 and 21%, they initially bought this technology and now they no longer own it and have instead chosen to buy a gasoline vehicle. And so, this is problematic since that if we want to reach 100% of the market, these early buyers of the technology, they need to keep buying it in order to get to 100% of the vehicles. And we had an expectation as well that over time, the rates of discontinuance would be decreasing as new vehicles come to the market in different body styles. And with more electric range, we'd expected that discontinuance would be falling, but actually what we're seeing is discontinuance increasing. And we think that's because the very early buyers of electric vehicles are very enthusiastic and willing to accept some of the differences of electric vehicles. Whereas we get towards the mainstream market, people are a little bit more pragmatic and harder to convince to keep owning the vehicles. Okay, so discontinuance is occurring. This isn't a good thing. And we also know this is happening at the same time as some other issues. So first, we know there's a lack of consumer engagement with electric vehicles in California. We know that less than half of the population can name an electric vehicle that's for sale. We know that few people in the main population are considering buying an electric vehicle. And we know that this hasn't been changing at all over time. And then we also know that each year incentives become more important for electric vehicle buyers. And that's happening at the same time as some incentives being removed and some incentives decreasing in value. So what this is sort of pointing towards is this 100% goal by 2035, that's going to become more difficult. And that doesn't mean to say we won't get there, but what I think it does say is that the existing suite of policies we have won't be sufficient in order to reach that target. We're going to need new policies in order to get there. And that could be a stronger zero emission vehicles mandate. It could be purchase incentives in the form of a rebate, which can sort of be sustained while the market is growing. But right now, it seems like we're going to have some challenges along the way. Okay, so I'll wrap up there. That was a very brief introduction to discontinuance, and we'll be putting more out about this in the future. And I'll thank the California Air Resources Board and the National Center for Sustainable Transportation for funding this research. And thanks for listening, everybody.